Amidst a workers' furore over Tata Steel's plan to exit the British operations, the UK Business Secretary Sajid Javid lands in Mumbai to meet the Tata Sons chairman Cyrus Mistry. The David Cameron government is likely to push the Tatas to wait for a buyer and not go for a slump sale. At this point, we're getting live visuals of the British Business Secretary Sajid Javid from the Bombay House right now at the Tata Group headquarters. Let's delve more into this big developing story, joined by Neha Bothra from outside the Bombay House. And Neha, take us through the latest developments, because clearly we have some pressure coming in from the UK government.
You are right, Avan. As you can see, the visuals playing on the screen right now, Sajid Javid has just come to Bombay House minutes ago. This is a very important development for Tata Steel workers. 18,000 of them, in fact, that really stand to lose their jobs if Tata Steel decides to close the plant and not wait for a credible buyer to come in. Now, remember that last week only Tata Steel management had announced that it wants to these loss-making steel units. Also, the steel environment in the UK hasn't been very conducive, showing little signs of viability in terms of financial sense as far as investment is concerned. These are some of the factors that the board will discuss as to how the government, the UK government, can pitch in some support and really provide some incentive for Tata Steel at this point to continue financial support for the affected steel plants, rescue the jobs of nearly 18,000 people. But more importantly, remember that Tata Steel is also responsible for shareholders, and these units have been consecutively over quarters seeing huge losses, and the economy at this point isn't really supportive towards the steel sector in UK, considering there are little import safeguards that the government has introduced. The energy costs are high. So all in all, the arithmetic doesn't work out to really continue these plants. Whereas Tata Steel now seems to be focusing on growing the domestic business, and there are attractive assets on the block that Tata Steel could perhaps be keen to acquire. We need to see how this pans out. There are a couple of names doing the rounds as far as potential buyers for these steel plants in UK on the block is concerned. We need to see how this pans out, how the discussions go. But one clear area that we do know the UK government is trying to help Tata Steel is with the pension payout. We are given to understand that the total payout liability is around £15 billion, and the UK government has offered to take a substantial hit of this entire exposure. We need to see how the negotiations go and whether Tata Steel will reevaluate its decision, considering that the priority for Tata Steel at this point is, of course, towards its shareholders.
Yes, indeed. The closure may lead to a job loss of 18,000, as you just flagged off. And those are some of the visuals. Very chaotic as we speak at Bombay House, which is, in fact, the headquarters right now for the Tata Group. In fact, let's take it across to Abhinaba Das also, who joins in right here from our Mumbai newsroom with more developments regarding the same. And we just flagged off that the government in the UK wants to try and take all steps to make sure that the factory that the operations rather in the UK do not close.
Absolutely. In fact, what the UK government wants at this point in time is that the transition is smooth. What they want for the Tatas is to find a credible buyer. They want the Tatas not to rush into things, to make sure that the lives of 30,000 people in the UK is not constrained because of the rash decision by the Tatas. So ultimately what we understand, speaking to the Tata Group officials, is that they expect the government to for the Tatas to wait for a credible buyer, not to rush into things, and to make sure that the transition is smooth.
Okay, thanks very much, Abhinaba, for joining in and filling us in with those details. So that's the big story right now. We'll have to wait and watch as to how those talks really shape up and what emerges. But those are the exclusive visuals that you witnessed only on ET Now. We just saw that Sajid Javid will be meeting Cyrus Mistry to talk about the decision to exit Britain. At all cost, steps are being undertaken in order to avoid that. And, Abhinaba, just wanted to garner some more details with respect to the same, because, just highlight for us in terms of what could be the potential job losses and, what the timeline has been as to how things have shaped up so far, because it was just last week that the closure of the UK plants had been cleared.
In fact, what we understand, Avan, is that the Tatars are looking at a 6-week kind of a timeline to exit or to strike a deal for the sale of the UK plants. Now, the point is, it's not going to be an easy job because we are talking about a very large facilities there, and one also needs to understand that the Scunthorpe unit, which Tatas have already been talking to Grey Bull for a deal. I mean, the talks are also very much on track. That's what the Tata Group officials say. So that is one part of the story. But the Port Talbot plant, I mean, that's where the concentration of the UK government is right now, because that involves lives of lot of UK citizens. But the problem here is that the losses there is almost £1.5 million a day. That's the kind of losses that we are talking about. And Tatas are very clear, they want to exit in a time-bound manner. But at the same time, I mean, you also need to understand that the JLR unions, they've also cautioned the Tatas that in this case, it's something which is very sensitive, and Cyrus Mistry should take steps with a lot of caution here. So since Tatas have a very big setup in JLR, I mean, that's one of the prized crowns for the Tata Group. So obviously the government is trying to put pressure on the Tata Group to make sure the transition is smooth and the lives of so many British citizens don't go, are not thrown completely out of gear.
Yeah, and you know, it's a fairly crucial plant as well. Is there any sense, Abhinaba, as to whether or not the UK government would perhaps be willing as well to share this massive pension liability, and to what extent would that provide a relief?
Well, that is again a very thorny issue, because if you look at the pension liability, the government has made it very clear that the UK government may not be in a position to take over the plants because the losses are humongous. I mean, it's not going to be easy. And we know for a fact the Tatas are talking to a few European companies. For example, ThyssenKrupp is one huge steel giant that they're talking to for a possible joint venture for Port Talbot plant. I mean, so obviously they are going with all that they can. But yes, for the UK government, it's not going to be easy to nationalize the plant or take over the pension liabilities that would accrue to their thousands of workers there.
Yeah, and you know, Abhinaba, just to talk a little bit more about that, UK is of course a very important market for the Tata Group, not just when it comes to the steel business cores, but also when it comes to JLR, a big market. So in some sort of a sense, they would want to keep the UK government pleased.
Absolutely. In fact, you need to see the visuals once again. I mean, the UK minister today drove down to Bombay House in a Range Rover. I mean, that also was making a statement to the Tatas that, look, you have a very important business going in the UK. You have to make sure that the lives of so many UK citizens is not thrown out of gear. So whatever you do, because what we understand talking to people is that the UK government is not, the minister is not here to tell the Tatas, please don't sell. What they're saying is do it in a way so that lives of the people are not thrown out of gear. Do it in a way that things are very much in control for the government of UK.
You know, and this really has been proceeding since last week. You spoke about some more potential buyers, but any word, any confirmation from the Tatas as to the timeline that the UK government can really buy from the Tatas right now with respect to resolving this entire issue?
Well, in fact, if you look at the timeline the Tatas have set for themselves, the 6-week deadline obviously will not be very palatable for the UK government, because what they're looking to do is the Tata Steel has told Tata Steel UK to present a credible plan over in a time-bound manner over what the future holds for these people who are engaged in the steel plants. But 6 weeks definitely is not something that the UK government would be ready to buy. So maybe that's where the negotiations will happen to make sure the transition is smooth.
Oh yes, indeed, and that would be the most desired outcome. And just keep you up to speed with the flashes as well on your screens right now. You can see those exclusive visuals only on ET Now with the UK Minister Sajid Javid, who has arrived just a short while ago, a few minutes ago in fact, at the Bombay House, which is the headquarters for the Tata Group. He will be meeting in just a short while with Cyrus Mistry, talking about that decision to exit Britain and prevention plans from doing so. Going to clearly explain what the stance is from the UK over the plan plant closure and also is going to perhaps urge the Tatas to revisit their divestment plan. And I know, Abhinaba, we've been talking numbers right now, but from what I understand, the Tata Group has already suffered something like $3 billion in losses on their Tata operations. It's a number that was thrown up by Tata Steel just last week. So, really for the Tata Group, it is going to be a fairly tough decision to make.
It is a tough decision, but again, the losses are such that maybe Tatas can't bear it anymore. I mean, this has been something that's been weighing on the Tata Group for a while now. I mean, we know for the last 6 months, the Tatas have been looking at ways to revive the units. They've been cutting jobs. They've been finding out ways to make the units viable. But maybe they've reached a point where they understand that things are not going to get better. And it's essentially because the European steel market is in the dumps. I mean, the imports are a huge concern, the kind of Chinese imports that are happening. And more importantly, the UK cost structure is not quite viable in the current scheme of things. So that's what prompted the Tatas to take that call that they need to exit the UK operations.
Okay, Abhinaba, many thanks for joining in from our Mumbai newsroom, keeping us up to speed with all of those details. That's the latest with respect to the overall issue with Tata Steel. We'll keep you more up to speed as and when we garner more information.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.